Between 1945 and 1950, 5 people disappeared in and around the wilderness of southwestern Vermont. They included an experienced mountain guide, an 18-year-old college student, a military veteran, an 8-year-old boy, and a skilled hiker. Only one body was ever recovered. It appeared in an area that searchers had already examined. Were these separate tragedies caused by unforgiving terrain, or did something or someone connect them? Before this investigation ends, we will separate the documented disappearances from the legends that transformed one Vermont mountain into the so-called Bennington Triangle. Southwestern Vermont is a landscape of steep mountain slopes, dense hardwood forests, abandoned settlements, and trails that can become disorienting when weather changes. At the center of the legend is Glastonbury Mountain near Bennington, Woodford, Shaftesbury, and the former settlement of Glastonbury, but there is no universally agreed boundary for the Bennington Triangle. The phrase was coined and popularized by Vermont author Joseph A. Citro long after the disappearances. It became a convenient name for a cluster of mysteries that had already passed into local folklore. The name suggests geometry, 3 defined sides surrounding one dangerous zone. The reality is far less precise. The 5 commonly grouped cases did not all occur in the same exact location. Some happened near wilderness trails, one began near a town dump, and another involved a traveler whose last confirmed sighting may have been many miles from Glastonbury Mountain. The connection is primarily geographic, chronological, and cultural, not something investigators established through evidence. Still, the timing was extraordinary. From 1945 through 1950, reports of missing people repeatedly drew search parties into the same broad region. Each case brought soldiers, police officers, volunteers, dogs, and aircraft. Each search produced uncertainty. And as one disappearance followed another, newspapers began asking whether this part of Vermont contained what one local article called a kind of lost horizon. The first disappearance, commonly associated with the legend, involved Middie Rivers, a 74-year-old outdoorsman and experienced hunting guide. In November 1945, Rivers was with a hunting party in the Bickford Hollow region near Woodford. He knew the woods well. He was not an inexperienced visitor who had entered the forest without preparation. At some point during the outing, Rivers became separated from the group. A friend reportedly saw him walking along a trail in a direction away from camp. When he failed to return, searchers moved into the mountains. The operation grew considerably. Volunteers, members of the Vermont State Guard, and personnel associated with Fort Devens searched the surrounding terrain. Those leading the effort expected that Rivers would eventually be found. People had become lost in the region before, but searchers generally recovered them, or their remains. Rivers left almost nothing behind. Months later, a handkerchief believed to belong to him was reportedly discovered along a trail south of his last known position. It was the only physical trace publicly associated with the case. No confirmed campsite was found. No weapon or clothing established his direction. No body revealed whether he had fallen, become injured, suffered a medical emergency, or encountered another person. The most ordinary explanation is also one of the most frightening. A person can know a mountain for decades and still make one wrong turn. Cold, exhaustion, injury, and darkness can rapidly turn familiar ground into a lethal environment. But if Rivers died in the wilderness, why did such extensive searches fail to locate him? The forest offered no answer. 1 year later, another person entered the same wider region. This time, the missing traveler was not an elderly guide. She was a college student wearing a bright red coat, and multiple witnesses saw her approaching the trail. On December 1, 1946, 18-year-old Paula Jean Welden, a sophomore at Bennington College, left campus for an afternoon walk. She reportedly wore jeans, light shoes, and a distinctive red parka. she carried little suitable equipment for a winter night in the mountains. Her destination appeared to be the Long Trail, a hiking route passing through Vermont's Green Mountains. Paula walked and accepted rides toward the trail. One motorist later said he had dropped her along Route 9 near the trail's entrance. Other witnesses reportedly saw a young woman in a red coat continuing north. A couple walking in the area believed they saw her ahead of them, but lost sight of her as the trail turned. That was the last widely accepted sequence placing Paula near the mountain. When she did not return to campus, concern was not immediate. Students had personal freedom, and there was no modern system capable of tracking her movements. By the time her absence became alarming, darkness and winter conditions had already settled over the trail. The search quickly became one of the most significant missing person operations Vermont had seen. Aircraft searched from above. Volunteers walked through the woods. Police and firefighters examined roads, cabins, streams, and trails. Paula's father traveled to Vermont and publicly criticized the investigation. At that time, Vermont had no statewide police force equivalent to the modern Vermont State Police, forcing local authorities to coordinate across jurisdictions with limited centralized resources. Criticism arising around Paula's disappearance helped build momentum for establishing the Vermont State Police in 1947. No coat was found, no footprints were conclusively traced to a destination, no remains were identified. Investigators and later researchers considered several possibilities. She may have become lost and died from exposure. She may have left voluntarily. She may have encountered someone on the trail or road. Paula's case became the emotional center of the Bennington Triangle legend because it contained all the elements that make a disappearance endure. A young victim, a recognizable final outfit, multiple sightings, a narrow trail, a massive search, and no physical trace. James Edward Tedford was a veteran living at the Vermont Soldiers' Home in Bennington. On December 1, 1949, he had been visiting relatives in northern Vermont and began traveling south by bus. The famous version of the story claims that witnesses saw Tedford sitting in his seat shortly before the bus reached Bennington, only to discover that he had vanished while his belongings remained behind. But contemporary details make that dramatic account far less certain. The last confirmed sighting described in surviving reports placed Tedford at the Burlington bus station, where he spoke briefly with an acquaintance before boarding a southbound bus. The driver later suggested that someone resembling Tedford may have left the vehicle in Brandon, approximately 70 miles north of Bennington. Tedford was not reported missing immediately. Approximately a week passed before the Soldiers' Home notified police that he had failed to return. That delay weakened investigators' ability to reconstruct the route, identify passengers, and preserve reliable memories. There is therefore no solid basis for claiming that Tedford physically disappeared from a seat between two moments of observation. He may have disembarked. He may have become disoriented. His final fate remains unknown. But the case demonstrates how mystery changes through repetition. A missing passenger became a man who vanished from a moving bus. Uncertainty became impossibility. And impossibility strengthened the legend. 3 years passed after Paula Welden disappeared. Then, on the anniversary of her disappearance, a veteran began a journey that would never reach its destination. On October 12, 1950, 8-year-old Paul Jepson accompanied his mother while she completed farm chores near Bennington. Paul's mother left him in a vehicle while she tended to animals near the town dump. When she returned approximately 30 minutes later, the boy was gone. Searchers concentrated on the dump, nearby roads, and surrounding woodland. One bloodhound followed Paul's scent along a road before losing it near an intersection. That abrupt ending encouraged the theory that the child may have entered, or been placed inside, a vehicle. Paul's father proposed another painful possibility. A driver might have accidentally struck the boy and removed him from the area in panic. There was no confirmed evidence of a collision, no identified driver, no verified abduction witness, and no clothing or remains recovered. Unlike Paula Welden, Paul did not deliberately set out on a mountain hike. He disappeared from a location near human activity during a short period when no one was watching him. That weakens the idea that a single strange force inside the forest explains every case. 16 days after Paul vanished, 53-year-old Frieda Langer was hiking near Somerset Reservoir with her cousin, Herbert Elsner. During the walk, she slipped into a stream and soaked her clothing. She told her cousin she would take a shortcut back to their cabin, change, and then rejoin him. Frieda never reached it. Hundreds of people reportedly participated in the search over the following days. Aircraft searched from above. Dogs and organized teams covered the surrounding landscape. In May 1951, approximately 7 months after she disappeared, Frieda's body was found near Somerset Reservoir, reportedly in or close to an area that searchers had previously examined. Decomposition prevented authorities from establishing a definitive cause of death. Frieda is the only one of the 5 commonly listed victims whose remains were ever recovered. But her discovery did not solve the mystery. It only replaced the question of where she was with another. How was she missed? The Bennington Triangle is often presented as a single case involving 5 victims. Investigators never proved that. The disappearances differed significantly in circumstance, location, age of victim, and available evidence. Their ages ranged from 8 to 74. There was no shared occupation, no established relationship, no common suspect, no verified vehicle linking the scenes, and no physical evidence indicating a serial offender. A 5-year cluster can feel statistically impossible when told as one continuous narrative. But people also underestimate how often individuals become lost, injured, or missing across large rural regions. The area's terrain, limited communications, and investigative resources of the 1940s could turn unrelated incidents into enduring cold cases. At the same time, natural explanations should not be presented as proven. Not every victim was conclusively traced into deep wilderness. Paula might have accepted another ride. Tedford may have left his bus voluntarily. Paul's scent reportedly ended near a road. Human involvement remains possible in 1 or more cases, even though no evidence supports one offender responsible for all 5. Long before the phrase Bennington Triangle became popular, Glastonbury already carried the atmosphere of an abandoned place. Stories later attached unusual lights, strange creatures, cursed ground, and supernatural forces to the mountain. But no verified evidence connects paranormal activity to any disappearance. The supernatural explanation survives because it provides one answer for 5 incomplete stories. It turns uncertainty into a single villain. But mystery is not evidence. The absence of a solution does not confirm the extraordinary. Sometimes an unresolved case remains unresolved because the decisive clue was never found, or because nobody recognized it when it was still available. The confirmed facts are unsettling enough without embellishment. Middie Rivers disappeared during a hunting trip in 1945 and was never found. Paula Welden walked toward the Long Trail in 1946 and vanished without leaving a confirmed physical trace. James Tedford failed to return to the Vermont Soldiers' Home in 1949, although the claim that he disappeared directly from a bus seat is not firmly supported by surviving records. 8-year-old Paul Jepson vanished near a farm and town dump in October 1950. 16 days later, Frieda Langer disappeared near Somerset Reservoir. Her body was recovered the following spring, but the cause of her death could not be conclusively determined. What remains unknown is far greater than what was ever confirmed. We do not know Rivers' final route. We do not know whether Paula remained on the long trail. We do not know exactly where Tedford left his journey. We do not know whether Paul entered the woods or a vehicle. And we do not know why searchers failed to locate Frieda until months later. The Bennington Triangle may not be a real triangle. The 5 disappearances may not form one case, but each person left behind a family forced to live without certainty. That is the true power of the legend, not monsters, not portals, not a supernatural line drawn across a map. It is the terrible space between disappearance and proof, a space where every unconfirmed possibility remains alive. The forest did not explain what happened. It simply preserved the silence. What do you believe really happened? Do you think these disappearances were unrelated accidents and individual crimes? Or does the timing suggest a connection investigators failed to discover? Share your theory in the comments. And if you found this investigation compelling, subscribe to Mysterious Crime, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next investigation. Every mystery has a story.